Hello, my name is Grian, and today we're going to be transforming a witch hut in Minecraft. However, transforming this isn't going to go the way you might expect. As you can see, it's a very small build in vanilla Minecraft, so I might as well have called this Let's Build on Top of a Witch Hut, because I'm going to be making a giant witch hut on top of this. So the first thing that we can do is add some upside down staircase just to improve the actual witch hut itself, because we actually will be using it despite having to build on top of it for the most part. I'm just going to create a very small runway to get from the land to the witch hut itself, and I will be using the concept that the witch hut is on stilts in the middle of the swamp. So I'm also going to change the oak wood to spruce. However, later on in the video I am going to change my mind halfway through and use dark oak, so you might want to start with dark oak now if you are undertaking this project. So just going to connect up these stilts, and I'm going to make a very basic frame. Now the idea behind this build is to have lots of these sections overhanging and overlapping over each other so that it looks really handmade and shoddily built, almost like a witch made it themselves, using the surrounding materials. And one thing that can really drive that home is doing what I'm doing now with the staircases, just making it look like the stilts are really wonky and like falling over, and that they're not going straight down. It just adds a really nice element of wonkiness to the build and makes it seem more witchy in a really odd sense. So as you can see, I'm doing that to all the sort of parts that I've done in my very basic frame, and we're now going to develop that frame. It does mean that your build is wonky and that you will have to compensate with the detailing later, but I will go over that. Where it overhangs, I've just had some spruce staircase stilts that just sort of hold it up at the side, and that really helps make it look like it's really wonky and everything. You'll very quickly get the idea behind this, and you can see as we develop the frame, I've made each section overlap and have bits coming out even further as we go up, so you can see that it's got a very cone-shaped appearance overall. Once you've done that, you can then start to fill in the walls very basically, and you'll notice that because it's wonky, you need to have 2 layers of depth. This is completely fine, as long as you embrace the fact that your build is not going to look perfect, because that is actually what we're going for with this build. So the walls will look a bit odd, they will look like they're going forward and back and whatever else, but you'll get the idea eventually, and this build is one of those ones that's going to look really weird while you're doing it, but when it's finished, it's going to have the overall effect. So you need to sort of have some confidence in yourself when you're building this. Don't double think things. So as you can see, we're just doing all of the walls around the build, and now we need to work on the roof. You can see I've purposely had these dormers really overhanging, really far out, and that's where the roof is going to start, at least on this side, and again on the other side where there is another dormer that is jutting out of the build completely. And then for the main part of the build, we're going to have a larger roof that oversees the 2 dormers that we've just created. It's going to take a little while just to edge round and create it, and then it eventually meets in the top. But on the other side, you might need to check that your frame matches the other side. You kind of don't want your roof to be at a block out either, so you need to just make sure that that roof lines up correctly. You can then just detail any balconies that you've created with some fence blocks, and then go on to finish your roof. It's very easy to just fill in with some spruce staircase. It doesn't need to be completely wonky, the roof at least, because from the bottom you're not even going to see it that much, so it's not a big deal. So now I'm going to do what I said earlier and change that spruce wood to be dark oak, and you can see how that kind of fits into the swamp a little more. The contrast isn't as stark, it's a lot nicer and warmer colour, despite looking a bit more like rotten wood. I just felt that it fitted the witch hut theme a little bit more. As I'm filling in the roof, there's nothing really to say here. We will fix up the roof later, and you can see at the back, I've actually kept the back without a dormer because I'm going to have a nice chimney stretching all the way up. So if you're making your frame for this build, if you're going to be transforming a witch hut yourself, do leave a nice area for the chimney to go all the way up through to the top of your house, because for a witch hut, it does look really nice to have that cobblestone contrast, and the extra height makes it look even more impressive. From the bottom, you're going to be looking up, so to be able to see that is really nice. Now, we've kind of finished all of the framework. You can see that we've got a very wonky build, one that looks very handmade, and now it's time to detail it, despite having all these sort of oddly shaped walls, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. You need to choose the bits with open space, and you can create little fake dormers, and then in little bits like that you can just add a slight window with a windowsill over the top. Really simple stuff. If you have extra space, you could add a nice dead bush windowsill. Really easy to do, and it's really simple. Just add some of the darker stained glass as your windows. Don't use the normal one, as that would clash horribly. Maybe a grey, a dark grey, a light grey, they all fit really nicely, or a brown. It's all completely up to you. And as you can see, just to break up these straight edges in the corners, I'm adding some staircase blocks along with the windows, just to make it look a little bit nicer. There's a few more things we can do to detail later, but for now I'm just going to use these same techniques that I showed you on the front and the side, and just make my way round the building, adding all those little details. Very simple to do, and just adding all those little bits and bobs. And we're going to then need to do the primary thing that makes it look really overgrown and witchy, which is, of course, the leaves as vines that I constantly do on a lot of my builds that are overgrown. The swamp has a very unique colour for grass and leaves and that kind of stuff, so I utilise that very well by having them overhang over the build, which is a very upside down cone shape in general, so it's really nice to have them just sort of floating down over all the overhangs, and it just really does a nice job of making it look really witchy and overgrown. And as you can see, I'm also adding a bunch of staircases integrated into the walls to make it look like it's a bit broken and a bit run down, and it gives it that extra little bit of texture, which I always love, and it's those fine details overall that creates a really nice atmosphere. So that's it. That is the witch hut transformed. You can still see the original witch hut sitting down there at the bottom, and you can tell that a lot of this design comes from altered techniques that I've taught you over time, just by making some very slight alterations to how we perceive the building process. We can create something completely different, and I think that's really great, and just a way that you can do something that's completely out of the box. How many people do you see that live in a witch hut like that in the Minecraft world? And that took me about an hour to build. It's not an overly difficult one to do. And that's another one down on the vanilla list of things that I can transform. I've got a sea temple left and a few other little bits and bobs, but there's some that just aren't suitable for transforming. I wasn't even going to do the witch hut one, but I decided against it because so many people asked for it, and I hope that I delivered. And that's it. Thank you very much for watching this video. I love doing the Transform series. I'm really putting off the underwater sea temple because I don't know how to tackle it, if I'm honest, but I'll get there eventually. I hope you enjoyed this one. I know it's not very Christmassy, but like I said, I'm not going to spam my channel with Christmas videos in December. Why not we backtrack to Halloween a little bit and do some witcher huts? I don't know. So anyway, if you're listening to my voice, that means you've watched the entire thing again. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye!